Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we're going to work on one of my favorite reels. It's a Daiwa Sealine SL250. It's the follow-on version to the Daiwa Sealine 50H, and this one probably is my favorite reel. No longer with parts availability to them, but this one has been bulletproof. It's about 25 years old. It runs on 2 ball bearings, heavy duty for ocean fishing, and it stood the test of time. I've seen these on charter boats that have run these things heavy fished for 20 years, and the only thing that needed to be replaced was the drags. But a couple of years ago, probably a dozen now, the Daiwa company replaced that with a graphite version, the SL250H, almost identical in size, capacities, and even the looks of the framing, but a little bit different on the gear side. So I'll show you how to take this apart, how to do the service on it, and how to make sure it lasts for years to come. So the first thing I always do when I service reels, I take them apart, and I pretty much take them apart piece by piece for all pieces. And I start by removing the handle. So while we're doing this, I want to point out that I do wear a protective latex glove on my one hand. I like to keep the oils and contaminants off of it. Those of you that watch my videos have heard that message plenty of times before. And I use a parts tray, which is over here on my left. It's just the bottom of a milk jug, but it's a good place to put all of the little pieces and parts. So I'll try and point out some of the strengths of this reel, and I'll try and point out some of the differences between this and the 50H, but essentially if you can do the service on this one, you can service the other one. So one of the differences is the external bridge mounting screws. They're now internal on the 250H. The second thing is, instead of threaded screws on these side plates, they use, for lack of a better term, a sheet metal screw, and they use 4 of them, not the 3 from the other, but that's okay in terms of, you know, not a performance difference there. Alright, so I'm taking the 4 of these off. I got 3 down. And again, I put them in a parts bucket so I know where to find them, and I'll, you know, when I go back to put the reel back together again. A good time to tell you, if you don't work on a reel like this, or if it's new to you, take pictures along the way. That way you know that how the sequence is that you took them apart, and how to put it back together again when it comes to time to reassemble. So this one, I think, just needs a general lubrication. It looks like everything is fairly clean on this reel. I don't know the reel. I got this reel from a flea market, and as a result, that it's new to me. So I like to take the reels off that I don't know about, and do the thorough inspection, because when you're at the flea market, sometimes it's got hidden problems with it that people just want to disguise to dump the reel. So in this case, I'm just going to service this back. This is a bushing on the back side for this spool. So make sure it's got good grease. I use Penn's Precision Reel Grease for that. Here you go. Here's probably the problem why they just dropped this reel on the flea market. There's some tangled line in here, and of course when that gets caught, that would be a problem in terms of performance. So looks like maybe that was the only problem. There's also some accumulated grease here, but nothing terrible. Alright, so we'll put that back in, and while I'm at it, I'm going to lube the other side of the spool, so that when we get ready to reassemble, it'll have the needed grease there. And I also am going to just do a quick wipe here on the spool to pick up a little bit of the accumulated dirt that was there. So I can set that aside. Let's turn our attention to the gear side now. So this is an almost identical assembly to the 50H. I believe the main gear has changed a little bit, and the screws are internal now as opposed to the external mounting screws on the 50H. But once you take those out, the assembly is pretty much the same assembly. On these 4 screws, there's 2 different sizes. You need to note that when you go to reassemble. There's a shorter screw that goes on the bottom. There's a longer screw that goes on the top. The longer screws go through springs that hold the yoke, and they actually operate the free spool release, so you need to know that. Again, the bridge is the same. The spring for the free spool is different, the cam is different, but the internals are pretty much the same. Okay, so I'm going to push this through, and I'm going to hold this now because I know I got two springs up there. I don't want to lose them. Okay, here's the one spring. Here's the other. They sit in these cavities on the side plate. So I'm going to go put them in there right now. And we're going to take the yoke and the spool gear off, the free spool jack, and then we'll go make sure these are all clean. So I'm going to wipe down the residual grease that's on that the yoke. I'm going to grab a piece of steel wool just to make sure that's got all the contamination off of there. Again, you can see I'm using that rubber glove for this, and we're going to go put some blue on. So my business is called Second Chance Tackle. The whole idea behind this one is to give the reels a second chance. When they wind up in places like flea markets, garage sales, and parts bins, I try to take them apart, see if I can fix them, and put them out there for use again. So what I'm doing here on the spool gear, I'm grabbing that gear, I'm looking to make sure all the teeth are uniform, and then I'm applying a liberal coat of the blue grease again to that gear to make that work. So there's a burring in the back here. I just want to grab a Q-tip, another one of my cleaning things. I want to make sure I get all the contamination out of there. I also have little tools like picks and wire brushes and things like that for cleaning. Now bearings get oil, and this is the bearing on the reel. So we're going to go put some oil on that. Give it a nice drink. It probably hasn't had one in a while. And then I'm going to lay the spool gear on top of that. Now there's no way this is going to lock in until we actually do the bridge plate. So I'm just going to put that on here for now. Press down to make sure I have it set right. And I'm going to grab the jack or the transition piece, and I'm just going to lay that on this the stud that operates that at the moment, and just let it hang loosely, and that's about all you can do right now. Okay, so now we're going to come over here to the gear side. See if we can just pull all of this off. This looks like it's got good lubrication on it, which is always nice to see. It looks like it's been properly maintained. But just to show you the inner workings here, there's a little bit of junk on the gear sleeve. So I'm just going to put some WD-40 on there, just to help break that up. I'm going to grab a Q-tip again. Q-tip, or sometimes if you have a little screwdriver, just looks like that's where it's chosen to settle and dry a little bit. So this does two things. It breaks up the lubrication that may have dried on there, and it provides a little bit extra lubrication for the operation as you go forward. So, okay, and this is a nice piece. This looks like it's a stainless or a chrome piece here. This is looks like it's a brass gear, very heavy duty, which is what I like about the Daiwas. And again, this is one of my favorite reels. So, if I get a little bit carried away in that, understand that I have a little bit of a bias on this one versus a Penn Jigmaster, for example, for the bearings and just because of the materials. Okay, I'm putting Cal's Universal Drag Grease on there. You notice I'm spreading it with a gloved hand to get nice coverage. Placing the first washer on the gear stack, and that belongs, that's a round one. And we're going to go do the same thing on the second one here. Good amount of dry grease, spread it around, get that in there. The second one is in the middle of the stack. It's always the eared washer, the two tabs, and those sit inside the main gear and the indentations. Last one up. Then we'll rub that in, make sure it's got a nice slippery coat there. Top gear, or top drag washer, metal, it's round, sits on top. Then the ferrule goes on top of that, and that drag stack is complete. So you can see this does not take a lot of time to maintain this reel properly, but it's going to provide years of good performance and steady service to you if it's done on a regular basis. Okay, so we're going to go put this back in now. So I've pressed down on the jack to hold that yoke in place. We're going to turn this around. and this should just sit right back in there now. It sits on a couple of studs on each side, lines up. Now remember what I said, you got a long and short screw. Hopefully that can be seen on camera. The long ones go up top, the short ones go on the bottom. I put all 4 of those in at the moment. So what happens if you took your reel apart, you didn't take pictures, and you didn't know this video existed, and you got a box of parts right now, trying to figure out where they all go? One of the things you can do is go to a website, get the schematic for that reel, and it'll give you the burst drawing of the reel so that you can put it back together in pictures. So what I do at Second Chance here now, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I'm just sharing my experiences. There's no profit motive or anything behind it. I just want to show people how to do this stuff so that they can keep their reels working and put them back out there in service. So I put a little bit of blue grease on the top for the free spool. That's working fine. We're going to turn the handle, make sure we didn't jam anything. That's fine. I'm going to go reassemble the reel by putting the side plate back onto the graphite side. We've got the 4, for lack of a better term, sheet metal screws. I'm going to go put those in. And what I like to do on these, even though these are pretty straightforward and locked, I like to put these in an alternating pattern, north, south, east, west, or in this case, east, west, north, south, just to keep the torque even on that reel. Put one on the bottom here, and then there's one that hides under that cam lever up top there for the free spool. Put that back in. So I like this one better than the Jigmaster because of the bearing on the side. I think it probably has just a little bit more capacity on the line, and it's easier for me to cast. I use it for jigging, so that's the only prejudices I have on that. Plus, you saw the gearing there. So these are actually interesting washers. They're not flat washers. They are concave. Concave washers can be used in a series of different setups. One can be face-to-face, one where the gap is, back-to-back where the gap is in the middle, face-to-face where there is no gap, and then this is the no gap, and then alternating where there's kind of a second gap. So what does it mean? What it is it's about drag sensitivity, how you like when you turn your drag adjustment knob, how much tension you like to carry with the drag turning. Has nothing to do on performance. They all get pressed flat in the end. Okay, you see I'm putting a Phillips head screwdriver in to hold the gear sleeve in place while I put the star drag down. I use a Phillips head because it doesn't have anything that can scar the internal part of the gear sleeve where the handle nut is going to go. All right, and then I put a dose of Real-X oil. I use for my reel oil before I put the handle in. We put that in a gear sleeve as the last part of the maintenance. We put the handle screw back in. I keep calling this a nut, but it's actually a screw. Maybe because of the top appearance of a nut with the wrench that's required to put it back in, but it actually is a screw. All right, and then we'll put the lock in, and my resale, my little find there, I'll be ready to go. And this one, like I said, most of the time I'll pick these reels up. I'll see if I can figure out if there's any problems in them. There was a problem in this one with the broken line in the back of the spool there. Somebody probably gave up on the reel because it was jamming from time to time. That's fixed. It's got nice drags inside. It's been properly maintained now with a good overhaul and lubrication. It's ready to go fishing. The only quandary I have at the moment is, do I want to sell it to somebody, or because these happen to be my favorite reels, so I want to keep this one and try it out for a while before I sell it. So I don't have the answer yet on that. Okay, so we got a nice functioning reel. This is what I like about it versus a Jigmaster. You have a nice spin to that. And let's just test the drags to make sure that they tighten down. The first time that you do that, there you go, we're solid on the drags now. Okay, so That's a little bit of the history of the Sealine, a little bit of a look versus its bigger brother, the 50H. What's changed, what stayed the same. It's still a very quality reel, built for heavy-duty fishing, capable of landing fish in the 25, 30, 40-pound class with ease. Lightweight with the graphite construction, well-made design with that brass gear and that chrome or stainless bridge plate. This one's ready to go for a long time to come. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more of these, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube, as I post frequently. And I will continue to share the projects as they come into my shop. So I thank you for viewing the video. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.